part of an alter exchange? welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. I'm so glad that you joined us this morning. We have a lot to talk about. The anti-Semitic, the anti-Israel protests are spreading. We knew college campuses were bad. We're learning by the day how bad they truly are. We'll hear from some comments from people like President Biden, Governor Hochul. We'll also hear from Mayor Adams out of New York City. First, this comment from a viewer yesterday. If you recall at the start of the show, for whatever reason, I brought up the new inductees into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Well, this from a viewer. My opinion of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees, yawn. But then again, Hollywood and the like largely make me cringe, so I turn them off. I would agree with that. I know we don't talk pop culture very often. That was more of a filler article to start the program before we got into the real heavy stuff. Kind of like this morning. Most everything we have is heavy. I will ask the question to you, as I've been asking for quite a few days. What do you think about Mike Johnson? They say the infighting is getting worse since Saturday's vote. But then there's an interesting piece. It's like 11 pages long. But saying, what if he's actually really good at this? And then you have, and I don't know if we'll get to this either, but Piers Morgan wrote a piece called Moscow Marjorie Taylor Greene is Putin's useful idiot and the real betrayer of America. So I know we have such different opinions on Marjorie Taylor Greene that I know I keep kind of poking the bear and trying to get your comments, but I do like to hear what you have to say. So now you have New York University, NYU, has jumped on the bandwagon of anti-Semitism protests, anti-Israel protests. It's funny, it depends on what news source you go to. You see places like CNN really try to twist themselves up into a pretzel saying pro-Palestinian protests. If you see what some of those signs say, there's no other way to look at it than anti-Israel. Another thing that I find very curious, and it's very reminiscent of the KKK in the sense that they covered themselves with the masks, of course, so they couldn't be recognized. Have you noticed that so many of these protesters are wearing masks? Some of them look like they have COVID masks. Some of them are, something wrapped around their face. I guess, I don't know if they're ashamed of their cause. They don't want to be seen. It's all very interesting. I know that one Jewish professor, I believe it was at Columbia, tried to get on campus, and when he was not allowed, compared it to 1938. But I'll continue here. New York University students are jumping on the anti-Israel tent camp bandwagon. The downtown Manhattan University has become the latest pricey college to see students set up encampments on campus as they protest Israel and the war in the Gaza Strip. Oh, wow, we are doing good on waves this morning. The protesters made camp across NYU's Stern School of Business in Manhattan on Monday as they called on the school to divest from the Jewish state and push for an end to its campaign across the Palestinian enclave. The students were seen waving Palestinian flags on the streets and sidewalks, with others hanging up signs to, quote, honor the martyrs of Palestine. Some students also proudly displayed another sign reading, "We are all SJP," referencing the Columbia Students for Justice in Palestine organization that has its own encampment protest going on. By Monday afternoon, protesters were seen scaling the barricades placed around the encampment to join the protest in front of the business school. I'm not going to read. It's tough passing along some of this because the language is so filthy, some of the chants. But video footage obtained by Fox News Digital showed demonstrators also chanting, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," which the Anti-Defamation League describes as anti-Semitic. Other chants were directed at the cops. Yes, it turned very anti-police as well, which I guess this all makes sense. It's reminiscent of kind of Occupy Wall Street or, the Antifa type protests. So among the demands from the students, because they always have a list of demands related to the war, the students are asking that racist, that's in quote, racist NYPD cops who they claim are trained by the Israeli military be kicked off campus. Interesting. NYU must disclose its relationship with NYPD and remove their standing presence from campus, the protesters wrote in their list of demands. Yes, these young people always have a pretty extensive list of demands ready. The fourth and final demand calls on the school to provide full amnesty to the students and faculty members who have been penalized for their recent activism. And that's another thing specifically at Columbia. The professors, the faculty that are marching in solidarity with the anti-Israel protesters, which goes to show you a little bit of why these young students are pushing an anti-Israel narrative, are pushing anti-Semitism, because it's what they've been taught by the quote-unquote grown-ups in the room. We'll talk about that as well. I do want to say, I don't want to spend the whole show on this, but I think it is breaking news, and I think it's worth mentioning. A little bit later on, we'll talk about the hush money trial with Trump. Ended quickly because of an emergency, something to do with dental work for one of the jurors. Is the way I understand it. So not a lot coming out yesterday, but we'll go through a couple different articles that say what you need to know. Well, the demonstration at NYU is the latest to spring up in Manhattan after students at the new school hijacked the university lobby on Sunday to set up its own Liberty Zone at the Union Square campus. Both demonstrators were started in solidarity. Both demonstrations were started in solidarity with the massive protest ongoing at Columbia, which was raided last week by cops, where they arrest 108 protesters. There's an interesting piece. We'll talk about some of the other campuses and some of the other things that we're learning about this. There's an interesting piece. I'm not going to go too far into it, and I especially don't necessarily want to start the show with it. But there is an article talking about Ilhan Omar's daughter. She was one of the students that was arrested. And it talks about, I guess she gave a speech, a TED Talk, which I'm not really sure how they work, how we hear from so many people that had TED Talks. But the daughter of Minnesota Representative Ilhan Omar, who was kicked out of her prestigious $90,000 per year college last week, who was complaining that she had nothing to eat, nowhere to stay. She has previously boasted of her pride in being hyper woke. During a TED Talk in February of 2020, Isra Hersey, who's 21, told the audience she had become known as, quote, token activist, the politically correct police, and the angry black girl for always speaking up against something offensive or problematic. I would say something all the time, and kids in my class used to get super annoyed at me, pointing out everything, even if it was the slightest bit sexist. But I was proud of it, she said during her talk. Eventually, people got really annoyed at me being hyper woke. The titles kept coming in, and I really claimed the title of being the PC police. So I joined everything, climate stuff, gun violence prevention. I felt like I had to, and because it's also became my brand. I would call out injustices. When you join so many white-dominated groups, you feel really alienated. It's interesting when there is repercussions at these protests. I mean, she takes up the mantle of hyper woke. And that's all fun and games when they're protesting and there's no repercussions, which is very often what happens. But then when there is repercussions, when there's finally a crackdown like we saw at Columbia, then there is the complaints. Then there is the, I don't have any place to live. I don't have any place to eat. Anyway, I don't want to go through all that. She did an interview with Teen Vogue. Yes, Teen Vogue, hitting on all the important issues of the day, and that's where she complained about having nothing to eat. But we are going to talk about NYPD arresting those NYU students. We're also going to talk about some of the other campuses. This is spread on. Also, what some of the donors are having to say, and what some of the politicians have to say. So weigh in on all of it this morning. We're just getting started on this beautiful Tuesday morning. I want to, a little bit later on, I want to share with you Assemblyman Phil Palmisano weighed in on the New York State budget. I do have a couple updates on the budget, but I wanted to highlight, just so you can mark it in your calendar, that Assemblyman Phil Palmisano will join us on Friday on the program. Friday, he'll be on the show to talk about the New York State budget, but we'll give you a little precursor to that and tell you what he had to say yesterday and what he sees in the budget. And there's a couple other things about New York in general, not just the college campuses that are on fire. 100 protesters arrested at NYU, not Columbia, NYU, and there's others as well. The NYPD arrested more than 100 protesters at New York University, including students and faculty. Remember, that's an important key when we talk about this, the faculty. This was last night, and they cleared out the campus encampment that was set up earlier by anti-Israel demonstrators. Make no mistake, there will be another encampment, I'm sure, up before the program is over. That seems to be the MO for these groups. We're going to talk so much about this and so many other issues as well, so feel free to weigh in at any time as we take our first break. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Isn't your wellness important? Don't you want more energy? Now's the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselson's Hot Tub. Hesselson's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselson's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselson's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
The world's best pizza has been baked in ovens made of stone, but you can't put one of those on the countertop in your home. Introducing Paisano, the authentic pizza oven by Granite Stone. Now make the world's most delicious pizza with real stone right in your own home. You simply set it and let it make golden, crispy, extra cheesy stone-baked pies in under 6 minutes. The secret is the dual-controlled heat zones that quickly heat the real ceramic stone up to 800 degrees so you can stone bake just like the pros. Plus, there's no gas, wood, or charcoal needed. Paisano is electric, plug-in, and portable. You can get your Paisano pizza oven for just 4 easy payments of $39.99. And we're gonna drop one payment. You get it all for just 3 easy payments of $39.99. Plus, we'll ship your entire order free.
Call 1-800-597-7208 or order online at buypaisano.com. Call now.
Sheldon and Missy face off in
Why can't we watch DuckTales? Because we don't learn anything.
Book Smarts versus Street Smarts.
Is it working? Are you feeling motivated? Very.
It's the battle of twins.
Life is so confusing. I always hoped it would be easier for me when I grew up. It's gonna be all right. You were faking. Bazinga.
Young Sheldon. Weeknights at 6:30 on Big Fox.
Welcome to Frankly Speaking, talking to the people that affect your life, that affect all of our day-to-day lives. This is something you're not going to get anywhere else. We've got a lot to offer. There'll be a lot of news, local, regional, national, really the things that affect you. And I think you'll be glad that you tuned in. So think of it as radio on TV. Frankly Speaking, live, 2 hours long, starting at 6 a.m. on WYDC TV Big Fox. This is history. Yes, now 2 hours long. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on Big Fox. Thank you so much for joining us. So back to the NYU issue, and then we'll get to Columbia. Cops in riot gear cuffed about 100 protesters with zip ties and led them to police buses. Now, this is important. Listen to this line. The grown-ups in the room, okay? NYU faculty members linked arms and stood side by side to form a human barrier between a swarm of cops and student protesters, according to a video that was shared to the New York Post. The professors were the first to be arrested. Moments earlier, police blasted a message over a megaphone ordering the group to disperse or face arrest for trespassing. Once the cops moved in, they also tore down tents the students erected Monday morning as part of a Gaza solidarity encampment. So you have, again, now you have the faculty involved. This anti-Semitism is run amok on college campuses, and there's no surprise where the students get the idea that this is all okay, that they can say this vile stuff if this is what they're being taught. Earlier in the day, NYU's director of campus safety informed protesters that they would face consequences if they did not leave the encampment by 4 p.m. Where this leads to, I'm not sure. You've got a lot of presidents that are scared. You've got a lot of faculty that are nervous that this is going to continue to grow. NYU spokesperson said the development dramatically changed the situation. He said in a statement, noting that protesters with no affiliation with the university breached the barriers. We witnessed disorderly, disruptive, and antagonizing behavior that has interfered with the safety and security of our community. and that demonstrated how quickly a demonstration can get out of control or people can get hurt. The university spokesperson said that multiple anti-Semitic incidents were reported during the protest without providing specifics. Beckman said, "We also learned that there were intimidating chants and several anti-Semitic incidents reported. Given the foregoing and the safety issues raised by the breach, we asked for assistance from the NYPD. The police urged those on the plaza to leave peacefully, but ultimately made a number of arrests." The NYPD said the students, faculty members, and other protesters were being arrested for disorderly conduct. All right, so that's at NYU, not to get confused with what's happening at Columbia, not to get confused with what's happening at Yale as well, these elite universities, a high price to attend. Kids found a new hobby, and that is anti-Semitism. NYU requested the NYPD to gain control of the disorderly anti-Israel protest, saying, again, the spokesperson saying, today's events did not need to lead to this outcome, basically putting the onus on the students, and rightfully so. Roughly 50 anti-Israel protesters started a demonstration on the plaza on Monday, and then, of course, it grew. So that's a little bit of the update on NYU, and at least 45, and this is from CNN, so listen to the difference in the headline. At least 45 pro-Palestinian protesters. Now, if you see these signs and you see the chants, it can only be deemed as anti-Israel, but at least 45 pro-Palestinian protesters are arrested at Yale University as rallies spread to more campuses on Monday. Yale University police arrested dozens of protesters after they allegedly refused orders to leave the scene of a pro-Palestinian, pro-divestment protest Monday, according to CNN. The rally echoed a spate of pro-Palestinian demonstrations unfolding across other college campuses. Tensions have escalated at many U.S. universities since the October 7th terror attack on Israel by Hamas. What a weird way to word all of that. Following the wave of arrests, a group of about 200 protesters returned to block an intersection, is what New Haven police said. So 45 pro-Palestinian protesters arrested at Yale. Again, all these elite universities. Yale University's police department had issued summons to 47 people after repeated requests to leave the quad, where protesters advocating for Yale's divestment from military weapons manufacturers converged, the school said. Students who were arrested also will be referred for Yale disciplinary action, which includes a range of sanctions such as reprimand, probation, or suspension. Now, despite the warning from police, many protesters refused to leave. Some locked arms around a flagpole and saying, "We shall not be moved," as officers began to move them. Now at Columbia, before I go to Columbia, Massachusetts Institute of Technology says it is determining their next step because this has happened there as well. Tents have been set up at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. MIT officials are aware of the tents, they said, and are determining next steps with a focus on ensuring campus is physically safe and fully functioning. MIT police were on the scene throughout the night and will continue to be present. All right, so what kind of all started this, in a way, was Columbia University. They, because of safety issues and Jewish students, rightfully very, very concerned for their physical well-being, have been told by the rabbi to go home. It's not safe to be there anymore. So what Columbia has done is they've extended their hybrid classes through the end of the semester. As some students have expressed safety concerns, Columbia said almost all classes, on its main campus will be hybrid, technology permitting, until the end of the semester. Safety is our highest priority as we strive to support our students' learning and all the required academic operations, the university said in an announcement Monday night. Organizers of the student protests have said their demonstrations, including a large encampment on one of the school's lawns, have been peaceful and distanced themselves from non-student protesters who have gathered outside the campus, calling them inflammatory individuals who do not represent us. Well, it's interesting. The only ones that are inflammatory are not members, not students or faculty at Columbia University. Jewish students are on heightened alert as the major Jewish holiday of Passover began Monday. Columbia Jewish Students Organization said they have increased security around their gatherings due to safety concerns, including having a police presence at the campus Jewish Cultural Center. Before Passover began, a rabbi linked to the university urged students to return home because he believes authorities cannot guarantee Jewish students' safety. So this is just kind of a quick update. University presidents are kind of boxed in on this. The university president, Shafiq, is facing immense pressure from alumni and lawmakers to rein the protests in, while others say such action would amount to stifling free speech. Now, you may have heard the Republican-led House Committee on Education called on her to ask police to clear the encampment and expel or terminate any student or faculty who were involved. But the president is already facing criticism from some faculty over her decision to call in the NYPD. Yes, you've got to remember, too, not only do these protesters do not like the police either. I'm sure they'd very much be a part of the defund the police movement. So it's almost, to them, worse because you have the police getting involved. Again, they believe because they're kind of young, they're entitled, they're privileged, they believe there should be no consequences for their action. This is kind of a big party to them, a big anti-Israel party. You go out, you have your tents, you yell, you scream, and you throw a temper tantrum. And at the end of the day, you're supposed to show that you were the most woke, that you were the one that cared the most, and you could share those pictures. Not with your face being shown. You have to have a COVID mask on is what it looks like. But that is what this is all about. It's getting the likes and showing your friends back home or your friends on campus, look at me, I'm the one that cares the most because I destroyed property or I chanted vile statements about Israel and Jews. I mean, you might say, well, that sounds wacky, Frankie. Frankie, you can call me Frankie if you want. Wacky, Frank. But that's really what it's about. That's really, at the end of the day, it's about getting the likes and the social media aspect to it. It's really sad. And now to see faculty getting involved, which should come as no surprise. Obviously, after October 7th, we started to see exactly where people stand when it comes to Israel. Where the Democrat Party stands, where college faculty and students stand, and it is very, very troubling. Now, we've got some comments coming. Yeah, I got to take a break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
When accidents happen, you want your repair done right. Bring it to Nappy's, or if undrivable, have it towed right to us. It's your choice where to take your vehicle. Nappy's has a state-of-the-art paint booth and a new and improved repair shop. Let our friendly staff of specialists help you through the process and get it done right the first time. Commit to Nappy's, family-owned for 3 generations. Voted #1 auto body repair shop 17 times in the Twin Tiers.
Thank you for your business.
Insist on Nappy's auto body done right.
What do when your tire goes flat and there's no air anywhere? You reach for Bullseye Pro, the smarter, faster, hands-free way to fill it up with air. Bullseye Pro is equipped with a rechargeable lithium-ion power plant. So fast and so convenient. It's like the power of an air compressor in the palm of your hand. Look, you can inflate all 4 tires on a single charge. It has a built-in smart pressure digital sensor that gauges and automatically stops when the set tire pressure is reached. Easily inflate pool toys, exercise balls, and more. Call or go online now and get the complete Bullseye Pro inflation system for the factory direct price of just $79.99. Plus, we'll ship your entire order free, and we'll give you a 50% discount on a second one. Order now.
Order call 1-800-970-9843. That's 1-800-970-9843, or go to getbullseyepro.com.
Something with a diamond in it.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Share in the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 7:30 on
our beautiful view of Market Street as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. I'm your host, Frank Acom. This is Frankly Speaking. Thank you for joining us this morning. Talking about the protests, anti-Israel protests on college campuses happening Columbia, Yale, NYU. One Jewish student at Columbia saying that they feel safer off campus than on campus. Now, they do a little bit of a look inside the encampment, and it's with CNN, so take it with a grain of salt. But Representative Josh Gottheimer, Democrat House Representative, he's from New Jersey. He described the encampment as full of protesters spewing incendiary anti-Semitic hate and vitriol. Gottheimer was among a group of Jewish lawmakers who visited the campus Monday, including Democrat Representative Jared Moskowitz, Dan Goldman of New York, and Kathy Manning of North Carolina. Elsewhere around campus, students were eating and completing assignments, and some walked down the street in graduation gowns, seemingly to take graduation photos. Risers are set up for an upcoming commencement ceremony. What's that ceremony going to be like? You can see protests spilling into that, I'm sure. Yep, something there. Comment from a viewer. I recognize the fact that we are all, as American citizens, guaranteed freedom of speech. But if I was comfortable enough to send my child to any of these schools, I would not consider doing so. I would want my child to get a quality education, which would not include them spending their time on such. Also, if I was comfortable to support an institution of higher learning, I would certainly avoid these institutions. And that's one of the issues that the campus presidents, the college presidents have now, is because they are hemorrhaging donor support. We're going to talk about that as well. But it's so interesting to me that, and this is the headline from CNN, Columbia faculty stage walkout in solidarity with students. So it is the grown-ups now. Faculty held signs that read, "Hands off our students" and "End student suspension now." Some wore sashes that said, "We support students." Speeches were met with cheers and claps from the crowd, as well as chants for Shafik, the university president, to resign. I'm here because a professor of history, Christopher Brown, said, "I'm here because I'm so concerned about what is happening at this university with that where we are now and with where we are going. The president's decision to send riot police to pick up peaceful protesters on our campus was unprecedented, unjustified, disproportionate, divisive, and dangerous." U.S. Representative Ilhan Omar, whose daughter Ursa Hersey was one of the ones arrested on Thursday, said, "On Thursday, Columbia arrested and suspended its students who were peacefully protesting have now ignited a nationwide Gaza solidarity movement. This is more than the students hoped for, and I'm glad to see this type of solidarity. But to be clear, this is about the genocide in Gaza, and the attention has to remain on that." All right. Much to what the viewer was saying here, Jared Moskowitz, he's a Democrat from Florida. He was on CNN Newsnight, and he said, "I was at the university today, and it's clear to me that while they are establishing a parameter outside the university, once inside the university, there's almost no security. They have completely lost control of the situation and are just letting it ride, which now you've confirmed by this new policy that they're just going to try to run the clock out by going fully virtual until the end of the year. I could tell you, between the students wearing masks and them going full virtual, bringing back the policies of COVID is not going to slow the spread of anti-Semitism." Tonight at Passover, this was the conversation around the table. Families are together, extended families are together, and that's what's going on at Columbia and what they're watching happen now at NYU as it spreads just around the city. This is the conversation, and Jewish parents are asking the question because I talked to them. Whose students go to Columbia? The questions they're asking is they feel that this was a minority group, a protected minority group, which Jews are not. They don't think that this would have gotten past lunchtime on the first day. But for Jews, because we don't fit in this box, even though there are only 15 million of us in the country, at the end of the day, we're looked at differently. And that's why universities have struggled with this. Because yes, while there is protected speech, free speech, hate speech is not protected. And we are well into the realm of hate speech. We were mad years ago, and this is an interesting point. We were mad years ago when we saw Charlottesville, and Jews will not replace us, and Donald Trump saying good people on both sides, or Mexicans are rapists. But somehow we don't have the same anger at Go Back to Poland. My grandfather's entire family was killed in Poland. He was a sole survivor. All Zionists should be killed. Bomb Tel Aviv. I know that people saying this aren't white Aryan males with tiki torches, but they have the same message. And to his point about Charlottesville, I don't know if you saw what President Biden said about these protests yesterday, very reminiscent of that line where there's good people on both sides. Now, they've always kind of misconstrued what Trump was saying, but you can't really misconstrue what Biden was saying. We're going to get to that. One Jewish student at Columbia University said anti-Israel protesters snatched and burned his Israeli flag, then struck him in the face with rocks during campus unrest over the weekend. Jonathan Lederer, 22 years old, told cops he was displaying the Israeli flag shortly before 10 p.m. when a protester grabbed one of them and took off, while another agitator burned a second flag. Yeah, this is only going to get worse. I can't read the statements that were said to him. Now, Robert Kraft, you know Robert Kraft from the Patriots, New England Patriots owner. He is speaking out against this. He was a grad of Columbia University. Him and other billionaires are going to stop sending cash for Columbia University. Billionaire investor Leon Cooperman, a business school graduate, said he would stick with a stop on donations, which began shortly after the October 7th Hamas massacres. Source had told the Post that other billionaires, including industrialist Len Blafnick, may also consider pulling back as the campus is rocked by pro-Hamas protests, which have left them traumatized. Columbia University's leadership must take immediate steps to ensure that Jewish students are protected from threats and intimidation, and that those who violate their policies are held to account. Listen to this. Cooperman, Blavanik, and Kraft have donated nearly $100 million in total to Columbia, according to some estimates. Money that has created multiple buildings on campus, scholarships for engineers, and a center for Jewish students. None of the donors so far have publicly called for the president to be replaced, meaning Shafik, even as she faced pressure from Republican members of Congress led by Elise Stefanik, the third-ranking member of the House Majority, and from Columbia Jewish Alumni Association. Donors aren't issuing an ultimatum. It's just that they aren't writing checks anymore. The spectacle of students building a mass encampment of tents at the center of campus, shouting pro-Hamas slogans and abusing Jewish students enraged Cooperman, the Omega Advisors founder whose parents immigrated from Poland. These kids are blanking crazy. They don't understand what they're doing and what they're talking about. Stop hiring. This is a very good point. This is Cooperman. Stop hiring these left-wing professors that fill kids with hate. I don't think the issue is that she needs to be replaced, meaning the president. She hasn't even been there a year. But the diversity, equity, and inclusion is all, we'll say, garbage. On Monday, Kraft posted as well. We're going to get to that in just a moment. But he said, I'm no longer confident that Columbia can protect its students and staff, and I'm not comfortable supporting the university until corrective action is taken. His full statement reads, it was through the full academic scholarship Columbia gave me that I was able to attend college and get the start in life. And for that, I've been tremendously grateful. However, the school I love so much, the one that welcomed me and provided me with so much opportunity, is no longer an institution I recognize. I am deeply saddened at the virulent hate that continues to grow on campus and throughout our country. I'm no longer confident that Columbia can protect its students and staff, and I'm not comfortable supporting the university until corrective action is taken. It is my hope that Columbia and its leadership will stand up to this hate by ending these protests immediately and will work to earn back the respect and trust of the many of us who have lost faith in the institution. It is my hope that in this difficult time, the Kraft Center at Columbia will serve as a source of security and safety for all Jewish students and faculty on campus who want to gather peacefully, to practice their religion, to be together, and to be welcomed. A powerful statement there. I do promise we're not going to talk about this all morning long. I know we've focused a lot on it. There's a few other things that I think are worth mentioning, and then we're going to move along. I do have a couple things here about the New York State budget that we didn't get to yesterday. Got a couple things here about Trump's hush money trial, as it ended early yesterday because of an emergency dental surgery or something for one of the jurors. So we'll find out what we did learn yesterday. What did you think? Did you watch the wall-to-wall coverage? Did you watch any of the coverage from these protests at NYU, Columbia, Yale, MIT, and elsewhere? When we come back, we're going to wrap up what Robert Kraft had to say and a few other issues as well. Just looking ahead, I don't want to run too late, so stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
I was an athlete when I grew up. And I always wanted to stay near athletes. What drove me to orthopedics and sports medicine in general was the need and the want to help these patients from their time of injury and helping them with surgery and through the rehab, getting them back to the field. My patients are obviously very important to me. These athletes, weekend warriors, all of them, I really want them to get back and be doing the things that they want to be doing.
Welcome to the heart of your home, made whole by Best Look Paint and Primer. With bold hues and subtle tones, transform any surface into a canvas of beauty and make your vision come to life effortlessly. And as the seasons change, trust Cabot
Bathroom of your dreams is only a phone call away with BCI Bath and Shower. We can make your ordinary bath and shower extraordinary. This is not a cookie cutter design. This is a complete custom build that will fit your every need. It's never been easier or more affordable than right now to get the bathroom of your dreams. We have the best monthly programs in the industry with payments as low as $99 per month or no payments, no interest for 18 months with approved credit. The hardest part of your new bathroom is gutting and building the tub and shower. If your bathing area is old, there could be damage behind the walls and possible mold and mildew, which can be a serious safety issue. At BCI, we don't cover a problem, we fix it. Call now to get a never clean glass treated door with a no-track system at half off for the first 50 callers. Factory trained, certified installers made in the USA and discounts for seniors and military. Call 800-704-1798. That's 800-704-1798.
Major League Baseball on Fox.
Hey, what I'm doing? Hey, getting right to it. Yeah, money is talking, I'm flowing, it's coming in just how I do it. Yeah, can't stop, nah, won't stop. Yeah, it's been on live. You don't believe it, just watch.
Jaw-dropping stuff. Major League Baseball all season long on Fox.
And we are back with Frankly Speaking. Just looking at some of the headlines, see if there's anything I missed, any breaking news, trying to follow along with these protests at Columbia, NYU, Yale, and elsewhere. Patriots owner Robert Kraft calls tenured Columbia professors one of the biggest problems. We have professors who, instead of teaching how to think, are trying to tell our young people what they should think. That's a very good point. I think one of the biggest problems that we have to do something about is really tenure at these universities, where people can do things and don't have accountability. We have hatred and intimidation taking over. Noting that Columbia was a place where people listened, were empathetic, and had compassion. We have hatred and intimidation taking over. What a powerful message, because to think that it's the faculty as well. And like he said, they're coming there. Well, it's interesting, and I've used this line quite a bit, and I really do wish I could remember who it was who said it so I could give credit. But when these protests originally started, not the ones, the anti-Israel ones, but when college campuses really became more of a hotbed of almost Antifa and Occupy Wall Street and like that, one talking head, and I thought it was such a great point, said that students don't show up to colleges to learn, they show up to teach, meaning that they believe that they're smarter than the professors, smarter than the grown-ups around them. They don't need to be taught that the quote-unquote grown-ups need to listen to their demands, and that's why there's always these lists of demands. And sometimes it's very interesting to see what they demand. Just it shows how childish they are with what they request. So just going back to Columbia, anti-Israel and pro-Hamas remarks made by several Columbia University faculty members, including Joseph Massad and Mohammed Abdu, were referenced by House lawmakers earlier this month during congressional hearings on anti-Semitism. Mossad, who is tenured, celebrated the Hamas terror group's October 7th attack on the Jewish state as awesome and a stunning victory of the Palestinian resistance. Abdu, a visiting scholar, declared on social media that he is, quote, with Hamas and Hezbollah and Islamic Jihad just days after the terror attack. Well, Kraft said, I never thought I'd see what's going on in America, what's happening right now, and it really pains me to see it. We can't have this intimidation that's filtering through all these colleges and the hate continuing to grow and multiply the way it is. 90% of the people in this country are good people. They just have to be educated, and we can't have them apathetic or misguided. They have to stand up and not be silent. It starts with the Jews. But then every group that feels marginalized, whether it be blacks, Asians, Hispanics, gay people, it will just really impact the great fabric of this country where people have freedom to operate and go the way they want. The New York Post editorial, but look at all these waves coming in and all these comments. Thank you. You have to wonder, though, this is a question from a viewer. If these protests were not covered as widely as they are by the media, how many of these students and faculty members would participate? That's a good question. I'm not sure. I do think it's more about their social media. I don't think they necessarily care if they're on the nightly news. I think there's that aspect to it where that's why they're wearing masks. So it's not really about the fame. It's about the, hey, I can post a photo on my social media and show all the people that know me that I'm the most woke. But there could be an aspect there to the coverage, and they can say that they were a part of history, on the wrong side of history, mind you, but a part of history. There is that aspect to it as well. The elite universities are allowing their houses to be burned down, but on the bright side, students won't have a place to get indoctrinated. Good point. Thank you. Keep those comments coming in. It is very troubling. It's not even something that I've tried to take lightly at all. I mean, it's obviously that this anti-Semitism is so acceptable. October 7th opened a lot of eyes to how many people in academia, how many people in the Democrat Party don't hide their dislike and hatred of Israel any longer. And unfortunately, if you follow some of these outlets, that's become the popular opinion, to be anti-Israel. But the New York Post editorial board, do I have time for that? We have so many things. Okay, let me do a couple quick things here before I talk about this piece from, this is tough. Queens council member David Weprin wants Binghamton University, we've been talking about Columbia, NYU, Yale, wants Binghamton University students reprimanded for their anti-Israel stance. So right in our backyard, Assembly member David Weprin, Assembly member, my fault, took the Student Association at SUNY Binghamton University in upstate New York to task for passing a resolution that, quote, stops the organization from doing business with companies that financially support the Israeli government. Weprin, whose district includes much of the northeast Queens, said the resolution is illegal. Calling them, good, call them out on it. You have to call these people out, and I do. I know I keep harping on this. I do find it interesting that they covered their faces at these protests. There's a really weird side of that that's very reminiscent from other hate groups in the past. Let me take that break, because I don't want to rush through this, because we do have a lot to talk about here, and we are going to move on because we've got some updates on Trump and Biden, but I do want to kind of dissect this as much as we can, because we can't glance over. I believe some of the media's coverage has really downplayed this troubling trend, hence the pro-Palestinian protest, not the anti-Israel protest, that kind of language. So I do think it's worth kind of doing a deeper dive than perhaps we normally would. So we are going to have a few more things for this for you, and then we will change up topics, because I do want to talk about the New York State budget as well. So stay with us. We got to take a short break. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Isn't your wellness important? Don't you want more energy? Now's the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with a Hesselson's hot tub. Hesselson's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselson's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselson's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
We are proud to serve our country, to serve our local communities, to wear the uniform, to be a soldier, to serve abroad when and where duty calls. We are ready to stand with our brothers and sisters to defend, to serve, to fight. We're always ready, we're always there. We are the New York Army National Guard.
Welcome to Frankly Speaking, talking to the people that affect your life, that affect all of our day-to-day lives. This is something you're not going to get anywhere else. We've got a lot to offer. There'll be a lot of news, local, regional, national, really the things that affect you. And I think you'll be glad that you tuned in. So think of it as radio on TV. Frankly Speaking, live, 2 hours long, starting at 6 a.m. on WYDC TV Big Fox. This is History Making. And we are back with Frankly Speaking here on Big Fox. Good point from a viewer. What happens to the love everyone, be kind, kindness matters mantra that the woke loves to promote? Yeah, that's gone out the door, isn't it? That's really interesting to me when you see, it goes back to, you know how they say like Trump is a threat to democracy, but yet they try to keep Trump off the ballot so you don't have a say, that type of thing. It's the same here. We were told it was going to be basically Nazi Germany here if Trump won, and now look what we're seeing, like the one professor said. This feels like 1938. I mean, this is really terrifying stuff, and that's coming from the left. And we've seen it when Biden had to change his position on Israel because of his party does have this serious dislike, this hatred for Israel. Now, there is an interesting piece by Politico saying that even though it's the biggest news story going, especially in New York City these last few days, Governor Hochul and Adams really can't do anything. Hank Scheinkampf, a New York political consultant, said the problem is there ain't much they can do. Columbia University is a private institution on private property, which means NYPD cannot have a presence on campus unless specifically requested by senior university officials. Like Adams' officers, Hochul was also in Morningside Heights today at Columbia, and she ventured inside to meet with the university's president and Jewish students earlier today. People need to find their humanity, she said in a video. But there wasn't much she could do, even as some Republicans called for the National Guard to be sent in. It's an issue that's hard to place it at the feet of elected officials. And the reason is that they don't have any law enforcement power, like to stop rallies, because that would curb freedom of speech, said former Governor David Patterson. As one person said, what can they do? They can bloviate, which is what they're going to do. Yes, Mayor Adams condemned the vile and disgusting rhetoric at college campuses. This is one of the fundamental rights we hold dear as Americans, the right to protest. What we have seen played out on many of our college campuses, and particularly Columbia University, is hate. We're seeing vile language being used. Adams noted that he could feel the duality of this moment and how the events of the past 6 months are weighing heavy on Jewish and Palestinian New Yorkers. He added that the police escorts of Jewish students through campus were reminiscent of the Army soldiers who escorted 9 black students into a high school in Little Rock, Arkansas, nearly 67 years ago. There is no place for hate in this city, he said. John Fetterman, who has been, I'm not going to say surprising. I mean, I guess I didn't really know where he would stand on Israel, but he has been one of the Democrats that's not backed down in his support for Israel. I can't use a word that he used about the protesters. We'll just say he does not care for the protesters very much. It's not appropriate or legal or helpful to advance your argument if you show up in a Starbucks with a bullhorn and start yelling at people. It just makes you a blank. It goes the same with yelling in the Starbucks. It's the same with shutting down the bridge. What people their lives were being affected by these protesters in very negative ways. Maybe you're late to an appointment. Maybe you just want to get home after a hard day's work. So how does that advance, quote unquote, advance your cause? You know, I've had this conversation numerous times on the program. Fetterman has been very critical of anti-Israel protesters. But he said it's very American to protest and do that in the appropriate way. He continued to reference protests such as ones blocking traffic, adding that people could be dealing with an emergency. He also expressed concern for people who are going to be late for work and might lose their job, or people have to pick up their kids or drop them off. How am I doing on time? An ex-CNN anchor, former CNN host Campbell Brown, declared Sunday she is heading to Israel with her sons, arguing that the embattled country is currently more welcoming to her Jewish family than New York City. Just before Passover began, the former news anchor and ex-Meta executive wrote on social media, "I'm on my way to Israel where my two sons will be safer and feel more welcome than they would be today on the Upper West Side." Wow, that's a powerful statement as well, and a true statement. Brown highlighted a letter from Rabbi Eli Buchler, who I mentioned yesterday, telling Jewish students that their safety cannot be guaranteed on campus. She responded to the situation by declaring this is outrageous. Minutes before her message about bringing her sons to safety in Israel, Brown shared a post from the Israel Files, which said Columbia University, the city, and the state of New York and the White House are standing on the sideline. Agitators at Columbia call for mass murder, openly and explicitly chant their love and support for Hamas, and shout, "Burn Tel Aviv to the ground." We've got more on this when we come back. We got to take our last break of this hour. We are moving quickly this morning. Keep those comments coming in, and we will be right back.
Truck Month has been extended until the end of April, only at Blaze Alexander Chevrolet Buick and GMC of Mansfield. Celebrate with up to $11,000 of discounts and rebates off new Chevrolet Silverado 1500s. Don't let high interest rates rain on your April. We have rates as low as 2.9% for 72 months on new Silverados. Looking for an EV? Stop in and check out our all-new Blazer EV. Shop 24/7 at BlazeChevyMansfield.com or stop and shop to save some green off Route 15 in Mansfield, where we're taking the deals the other guys won't.
Getting real video for a commercial used to be extremely expensive, but not anymore. WYDC TV Big Fox now offers the Twin Tiers amazing aerial video for your business. We do it with our state-of-the-art drone and commercially licensed aerial pilot. Beautiful HD aerial video and pictures custom-made for your commercial. Call or email now to advertise on Big Fox TV and let everyone see your business in a whole new way.
We are back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. We're talking about Columbia, we're talking about NYU, Yale, and the anti-Semitic, anti-Israel protests popping up, not just in New York, but it seems to be very heavy in New York. Well, the New York Post editorial board says the Columbia president must go. We had our doubts that Columbia President Shafiq would stick to her guns after calling in the NYPD to roust the, quote, pro-Palestine occupiers last week. But we didn't expect her to turn around and start privileging the protesters over the rest of Columbia University. Since she clearly needs to go. And that can only be the start of rooting out the anti-Semitic radicalism infesting the school. Note that the protesters have only grown worse these last few days. They're now openly pro-Hamas and telling campus Jews that they'll be next. Their encampment is larger too. Yet the school's leaders are not just tolerating a new settlement by the same crowd, but privilege the protesters over all other students by going all remote, the hybrid classes, penalizing kids whose tuition was supposed to pay for in-person education. Yes, all that money that they're spending to go to Columbia, and they have to do it from their home because the president of the university is giving privilege to the protesters. and actively securing the campus from those who want to voice an opposing view on the grounds that it can't protect law and rule-abiding opponents of the Jew haters from the goons. Israel-born Biz School assistant professor Shay Davide says his key card read deactivated Monday when he sought to enter the school's Morningside Heights Center quad, and that administrators told him they'd banned him because they can't ensure his safety. As a member of Columbia University, of the community, he has every right to enter the core campus and speak freely. Yet the school is instead enforcing the protesters' heckler's veto. And that's a line that I haven't heard in a while, but that's what started happening on the college campuses where, for instance, a conservative was invited to speak, and the heckler's veto, that would mean that there'd be so much protests, they'd say, well, we can't guarantee your safety, or the group that was bringing you in has to pay an inordinate amount of money for security. And so essentially gave the win to the hecklers, to the protesters. Shafiq is a creature of the establishment. On the board of the Gates Foundation, former president of the London School of Economics, ex-deputy governor of the Bank of England, one-time World Bank Veep, and International Monetary Fund Poobah. Her statement Monday announced remote classes epitomizes that institutional blandness. She's deeply saddened at how the community's bonds have been severely tested in ways that will take a great deal of time and effort to reaffirm. What's needed is serious conversation about how Columbia can contribute to help alleviate the devastating human consequences of the terrible conflict raging in the Middle East. Given that many views across our diverse community, she offers to sit down and talk and argue and find ways to compromise on solutions. That is, she's publicly pleading for the protesters to talk to her, and they're refusing. She can't come back from that. Time to go. Columbia needs a president who can call back the cops, clear the quad, expel every student who's breaking the rules, and fire any faculty member along with them. And a board of trustees willing to back up that firm leadership. Mind you, the school's corruption runs far deeper than Shafiq. For decades, Columbia has filled its classrooms with a cabal of radically anti-Israel instructors, starting with the late Edward Said. And they go through the history. We don't have time to go through all the history. But I thought that was a very, very good point. This has been a long time coming. You can't have these professors teaching this anti-Israel speech and then be surprised when students take up the cause. To be clear, everyone has a right to orderly protest, and academic freedom extends to radical faculty too. But free speech, free thought, and the academic project all requires civilized debate and dissent. The kids actively attacking those ground rules and all faculty encouraging that assault need to go. And so does every university leader who can't stand up for civilization against mob rule. I thought that was a really good piece from the New York Post. So we're done with this hour. In the next hour, we're going to be talking a little bit more about this. Not much more. I just want to tell you what Biden had to say. We've got a few things here about Biden, a few things here about Trump's hush money trial, New York State budget. We're going to hear from Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. He's going to be on the show Friday, but yesterday he released a statement on the budget, so we'll hear from him. I'll read that to you. I posed a question yet again. Piers Morgan says Marjorie Taylor Greene is being Putin's useful idiot, and that she's the real betrayer in America. What do you think of that? That's Piers Morgan at the New York Post. So we could talk about that as well. Mike Johnson, if you want. There's a lot of articles about Mike Johnson this morning. I know, I always try to get the conversations around him, but not a lot of talk. But if you want to weigh in on those or any other issues of the day, feel free. You see the number on the bottom of your screen. Right now, we do have to take a short break, and then we'll be back with hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, please stay with us.
At Simmons Rockwell Nissan, lease a brand new 2024 Nissan Rogue SV all-wheel drive for only $399 a month for 36 months. Make car buying simple. Drive your deal at Simmons Rockwell Nissan in Horse.
Friends have been friends about Colonial Penn guaranteed acceptance whole life insurance for more than 50 years, and with good reason. If you're between the age of 50 and 85, it's a sure thing. Your acceptance is guaranteed because full benefits are not paid in the first 2 years. And the price? Options start at $9.95 a month, less than 35 cents a day. With Colonial Penn, your rate is another sure thing. It will never increase. And you should know this coverage can last a lifetime.
Call today, 1-800-475-1050.
And we are back. Hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. We've been talking about Columbia University. If you're just joining us, we've been talking about Yale. We've been talking about NYU, where the anti-Israel, anti-Semitic protests are really spiraling out of control. Noah Rubin says elite schools are turning into Hamas University. At the University of Pennsylvania, we are no longer known as the birthplace of the mRNA vaccine or the computer. Any quick Google search over the past 6 months will find that our university has been overrun by extremists who hate America, hate Israel, and hate Jews. Columbia University has devolved from the birthplace of more than 100 Nobel laureates to a war zone where Jewish students have been advised to go home. Students across the country glorify the first woman to hijack an airplane, rather than the women who graduated from their own universities. Students and faculty are at the center of this unfortunate fall from grace. And that's the one thing, and that's what I like what Robert Kraft had to say. It really does boil down to these teachers, these ones with tenure, that they've been pushing this hate for years, so what do you expect? It's rotten to the core. Now, that he goes through, Noah Rubin, and goes through some of the specifics. I don't want to get to all that. He's a junior, though, from South Florida, studying at UPenn's Wharton M&T dual degree program. But he said at schools across the country, there exist extremists, full-time agitators. Who is paying them to undermine our American institutions? At Columbia, more than 100 student rioters were arrested. But they are now back to harassing Jewish students, along with thousands of New Yorkers, and even mocking the administration. At Yale, the administration threatened to discipline students leading a pro-Hamas encampment, but then stood back and didn't follow through. Yeah, they don't want to lose their cash cows. I mean, think about this. Let's say $70,000 a year. I'll just say on the cheap side, $70,000 a year. So you now lost 100 students and all that money coming in, but you're losing on the back end too your donors. So it's not an enviable place to be. I think it's like very often what we've been seeing with even Biden with Israel. There was a tough stance at first against this hate. Now there's the eroding and the weakness shown to them, and giving what the New York Post called the heckler's veto, giving them the say over what happens on college campuses. The pro-Hamas groups on our campuses have overrun our universities. They've invited countless anti-Semites to our campus, make Jews feel completely unsafe, and turning the American university into a breeding ground for extremism. If universities don't act, our state and federal governments must step in. We will lose the ability to educate the next generation if we continue to allow extremists to control our American institutions. How will we remain a leader in technology and medicine, and who will respect our authority on the world stage of geopolitics? Critical American infrastructure, the university, is under attack. We have no choice but to fight back. Now, Biden is very reminiscent. Remember, he said, and he's used this line quite a bit, that he decided he was going to run for president when he heard Trump's Charlottesville line. Now, that has been deceptively, I don't want to say edited. What's the word I'm looking? Taking out of context. But Biden had his own, they're calling it both sides moment. Now, of course, you're not going to see this in the mainstream media, the legacy media. But he condemned anti-Semitic campus protesters across the U.S. before swiftly moving to a defense of the Palestinian cause. I condemn, this is President Biden, I condemn the anti-Semitic protests. That's why I've set up a program to deal with that. He did not reference what program that is that he set up. I also condemn those who don't understand what's going on with the Palestinians. Now, the 81-year-old's remark were a mere image of then President Trump's assessment of the deadly unrest in Charlottesville, Virginia, following a white supremacist rally in August of 2017. You look at both sides. I think there was blame on both sides. I have no doubt about it, Trump said at the time. He also had some very fine people on both sides. Biden has repeatedly cited that moment as the reason he decided to run in 2020. Biden made his Monday comments after speaking with AOC at an event to launch a website for the New American Climate Corps. So again, that's the statement made by President Biden regarding the anti-Semitism that has run amok on college campuses throughout our country. The hate, it's disturbing if you wake up in the morning and you go to watch it, the news or something like that, and you see the videos, you see the photos. And yes, it is so these students can get all the likes on social media, but the pure hate coming from the group, to that one viewer's comment, to the group that's always, peace and love and be kind and kindness matters, and we've got to be inclusive, and these are the people that are spewing hate at Jewish people. Now, Biden's saying, I condemn the anti-Semitic protests. That's why I've set up a program to deal with that. Again, not referencing what that program is. I also condemn those who don't understand what's going on with the Palestinians. Okay, enough on that for now, unless you want to weigh in. If you're just joining us, we talked almost a full hour, the last hour, on the anti-Semitism on college campuses. So we are going to move along. We're going to talk about the New York State budget here when we come back. There's an interesting, and I'd like to hear your opinion on this too. I have not, in full disclosure, I have not followed Ben Shapiro for quite some time. It's not a knock on him. It's not anything else, and I just haven't had an opportunity. But according to media, Ben Shapiro is kind of making it his goal that he's on the warpath against the kind of conspiratorial people on the right. I don't know. I mean, it's coming from media, so take it with a grain of salt, but Ben Shapiro has made his choice. He's fighting back. The question looming for much of the rest of the patriotic right is, will it do the same? So I thought maybe I'd get your take on that. But when we come back, we're going to talk about New York State budget quickly because Assemblyman Phil Palmisano weighed into it yesterday. As I said, he is going to be on the show Friday. So get your questions in ahead of time. Friday, Assemblyman Phil Palmisano will be on the program. All right, let's take... No, we don't... Well, we have a second. Hold on. I don't know why I'm rushing. I am looking at the time, and I think it's because I thought I was going to sneeze. We could talk about Mike Johnson, the beleaguered gentleman, as this one piece calls him. I've never had a problem with Mike Johnson. That's why I think I pose the question to you so often, to see what your opinion is. I know a lot of people are upset with what happened during the vote on Saturday, and it's kind of caused some infighting. I don't know if I have as much problem with it as others, so I would just love to hear your opinion on it. We are going to talk about the New York State budget. As I said, a few things here about Trump's hush money trial. Did you see that Melania was out campaigning for the president? We'll talk about that a little bit as well. And I think that does it. If you want to talk more about the universities, I'd be more than happy to. We just went in so much in depth, I think, in the first hour that I probably should have saved some of it for the beginning of the second hour. But if you're just waking up, you're just tuning in, NYU, Columbia, Yale, all overrun essentially by anti-Israel hate and protests and encampments. And many arrested at Columbia last week, 108 I think it was, 100 or so if the number sticks in my head right, at Columbia. So again, or at NYU, excuse me. So we can talk more about that if you'd like, but let me take that break because I am going to sneeze. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Isn't your wellness important? Don't you want more energy? Now is the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselson's Hot Tub. Hesselson's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselson's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselson's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
But y'all got a lot of stuff here in your water. You're never gonna believe it, but this can filter up to 60 different contaminants from your water.
It's all about cleaner drinking water.
Dude, that's good water.
And that's good water.
Now that's good water.
That's good water, eh?
No matter where you live, there's a Culligan water expert nearby. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
Rated the best hearing aids of 2023 by Forbes, the Audien Atom 2 series offers superior sound quality and functionality for a fraction of the price. For just $189 a pair, the Atom 2 features 4 different hearing modes for all types of hearing loss. It packs crystal clear sound, a nearly invisible design, and is even rechargeable.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aids. They're so comfortable, I forget I'm wearing them. And the sound is amazing.
The Atom Pro 2 is our smallest hearing aid yet, featuring advanced background noise cancellation, and is the world's first hearing aid with built-in UV cleaning that kills 99% of bacteria.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed without seeing a doctor or having a hearing test.
Join over 500,000 happy customers today and get the hearing you deserve.
Call 1-800-434-9816 or go to AudienHearing.com to get your pair of Audien hearing aids starting at just $189.
Sheldon and Missy face off in
Why can't we watch DuckTales? Because we don't learn anything.
Book Smarts versus Street Smarts.
Is it working? Are you feeling motivated? Very.
It's the battle of twins.
Life is so confusing. I always hoped it would be easier for me when I grew up. It's gonna be all right. You were faking. Bazinga.
Young Sheldon. Weeknights at 6:30 on Big.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining us on this morning's broadcast of Frankly Speaking. A comment from a viewer. Frank, you look less like a younger Robert Plant today, now that you got around to shaving. Kidding, of course. Yes, yesterday I forgot to shave from the weekend, so I appreciate the nice words. Okay, so the state budget is done. We talked about it extensively yesterday. Some of the things, though, that we learned, and we kind of glanced over it yesterday, we are going to talk about what Assemblyman Phil Palmisano had to say, but the state's $237 billion budget is meant to address issues voters have consistently cited as chief concerns. The cost of living and crime. Does it really do that, though? And as the ink is drying on the 3-week late spending package approved by lawmakers over the weekend, members of both parties agree it will take time for New Yorkers to feel any impact from a sweeping housing package, an effort to address retail theft, and a crackdown on illegal cannabis shops. So it's going to take a while, they tell us. And it won't stop Republicans from making crime a key issue in this year's election for all 26 House seats and 213 state legislative contests. Well, it's not necessarily, I think that's worded a little bit misleading. It's not that Republicans are using it. It should be a major issue. The voters say it's a major issue. So why do Republicans highlighting it, why do they make that sound so nefarious? In my opinion, it's not enough, Republican Assembly member Michael Durso told Playbook. We didn't go far enough with it to push those and hold those accountable who are breaking the law. It was just enough so that Democrats could put out a political mailer and say they're changing public safety policy. And that's a great point. And that's what I've been saying from the beginning about Governor Hochul. She's not really doing anything, but she can release that flyer. She can give that speech and say, in this case, shoplifters, your days are numbered. It's very awkward. I don't know if you saw that. She just doesn't have the charisma when she gives a speech. I don't really know how. It just, everything seems so scripted. And it's scripted to the point where it's like a bad actor reading the script. But anyway, I didn't mean to just take a knock at her. The final budget plan largely accomplished what Governor Hochul set out to do, where she unveiled her agenda in January. She won a housing plan, tougher penalties for addressing retail theft and assault on workers, and the creation of 23 new hate crimes. She was also able to get Mayor Eric Adams' priorities over the finish line, which include housing, an extension of his control over public schools in the city, and the cannabis crackdown. All right. You get the idea. I don't want to go through all the housing. Nevertheless, so it says here, Democrats running for re-election will point to a range of issues, from allowing New York City to lower its speed limits on many streets to less than 25, as well as grant money to expand access to abortion services as victories when they face voters. Okay. Now, the New York governor did sign, I don't know why I worded it like that. Governor Hochul signed new squatters law. She signed a portion of the New York state budget Monday morning that will change the way tenants are defined in state law. Lawmakers say it will make it easier for police to intervene in squatting cases instead of having to take them to housing court. The new law takes effect immediately. Over the weekend, the Assembly and Senate passed the new bill. It is small change. The small change that the lawmakers say will have a big impact. They voted to change the state's property law, stating, quote, a tenant should not include a squatter. They're hoping it makes it easier for police to intervene in cases when someone enters a home without permission or legal paperwork instead of having to take them to housing court. All right. This is also interesting. I'd love to hear your opinion on this because I may be too much on the inside on this. There's a tax break to hire local journalists. That has been approved. It's a national first. The decades-long struggle of local media is getting a lifeline in New York, says Politico. The state budget, set to be finalized, includes the nation's first payroll tax credit for local news organizations in a bid to encourage new hiring amid the ongoing struggles of journalism outlets to cover their community. Now, we've all talked about some of our criticism. I mentioned a lot when it comes to election season. That luckily, that's why I think we have such a unique opportunity here on Frankly Speaking, that we can interview people and get the candidate's voice out there. But that is pretty rare. Lawmakers and independent media companies praise the tax break, which will designate $30 million a year to the program. A thriving local news industry is vital to the health of our democracy. Brad Holman Seigel, a Manhattan Democrat, said in a statement, it's our responsibility to help ensure New Yorkers have access to independent and community-focused journalism. New York spends more than $8 billion a year on tax incentives and grants to attract and retain business in the high-tax state, and advocates of the measure have for years sought to extend this to newspapers and the local TV industry. The late addition to the $237 billion budget allows eligible outlets to receive a 50% refundable credit for the first $50,000 of a journalist's salary, up to a total of $300,000 per outlet. The money is largely focused on independently owned publications, but also can cover hiring journalists in print media outlets that demonstrate a reduction in circulation or in the number of full-time equivalent employees of at least 20% over the previous 5 years. The aid will be split among companies with 100 or fewer employees and larger ones. Okay. Interesting. All right, we're going to hear what Assemblyman Phil Palmisano had to say about the budget. Here's a comment from a viewer. New York is giving the world a new incredible gift. In the midst of budget increases, rising crime, radical protests, squatters, and inflation, New York is presenting a bill to ban the sale of individually wrapped sliced cheese. I saw that. New York, saving the world one slice of cheese at a time. You're exactly right, Ken. Yes. As people cite public safety, immigration, there's so many things. College campuses are on fire, and we're focusing on what's really important, individually sliced cheese. You can't make this up when it comes to Albany. It is, well, you can't even say laughable. It's just frustrating. Nothing new there. So we're going to tell you what the Assemblyman had to say when we come back from this break, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, please stay with us.
Attention, if you were a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and now have uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call now to see if you qualify. There's no fee unless we win your case.
Brighten your smile this spring with Watkins Glen and Elmira Family Dentistry. Their spring whitening special will give you a beautiful whitened smile without the gimmicks and hundreds of wasted dollars. Their licensed dental professionals will apply the product for you in one of their beautiful and relaxing offices. Their materials are made in the USA and are prescription strength to provide an unbelievable result in about an hour of your time. Give them a call to schedule your appointment.
Attention Medicare beneficiaries. beneficiaries. This is an important message for people on Medicare. Today we are talking about Medicare Advantage plans. If you're new to Medicare, moving or losing coverage, and don't have a Medicare Advantage Part C plan, call now because there may be a Medicare Part C plan with additional benefits available in your zip code. You can call now to find out if you're eligible to enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan with additional benefits. Just call 800-351-6177 and a licensed insurance agent can look up your eligibility and plan options and see if you're eligible to enroll in a Medicare Part C plan that could save money or include additional benefits. Don't wait. You are not automatically enrolled in a Part C plan with additional benefits. If you're new to Medicare, moving or losing coverage, call for your free, no-obligation Medicare benefits review. You won't know what plan options are available to you unless you call, so call now. The call is free. Call 800-351-6177. 800-351-6177.
It's a season of sharing.
Having a good time has always been my #1 goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you're talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on Big Fox.
We are back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. So Assemblyman Phil Palmisano reacted to the 2024-2025 state budget. He said when Governor Hochul released her budget in January, she claimed it would make the lives of everyday New Yorkers better and more affordable. The unfortunate reality is the whopping, record-breaking $237 billion budget, $8 billion more than last year, enacted by Albany Democrats, does nothing to improve the lives of New Yorkers, but instead continues down the reckless path of uncontrolled and unsustainable spending and misplaced priorities. Their prioritization of $2.4 billion for the migrant crisis and the $700 million film tax credit for Hollywood elites is irresponsible and clearly sends the wrong message to hardworking and struggling New Yorkers. This, especially in light of their failure to significantly deliver on much-needed and long overdue critical assistance to help improve the quality of life and quality of care for our most vulnerable citizens, the intellectually and developmentally disabled, and the dedicated direct support professionals who care for them. This budget authorizes the governor to close up to 5 additional correctional facilities with just 90 days notice on top of the 11 that have already been closed since 2019. The current 1-year statutory notification requirement is devastating enough to our brave and dedicated correction officers, civilian staff, their families, and the community. To uproot families with just 90 days notice is wrong, unacceptable, and an insult to those individuals who work a dangerous job to keep us safe. We owe them much more than this, and this state has once again failed them. I'm grateful we restored the governor's proposed $60 million cut to the critically important and successful CHIPS program. However, it simply is not enough to address our infrastructure needs and help improve our local roads, bridges, and culverts that are the lifeblood of our upstate transportation network and local communities. In fact, the Federal Highway Administration Highway Construction Cost Index has increased nearly 60% in the last 2.5 years, yet the Albany Democrats chose not to make CHIPS funding a priority for our upstate community. This, again, if you're just joining us, Assemblyman Phil Palmisano weighing in on the budget. We're going to talk to him in person. We're going to talk to him in person on Friday. Sorry, I got some comments coming in. I was pleased to see items we fought for included in the final budget, like increasing penalties and resources to fight the growing retail theft crisis, giving local law enforcement the authority to shut down the scourge of local sticker store operations, illegally selling cannabis, making much-needed changes to our state's property law to highlight the difference between criminal squatters and tenants, defeating the governor's proposed funding cuts for half of our state's school districts, and funding to help promote organ donation. The bottom line is New York families and businesses continue to face a public safety, affordability, and quality of life crisis. They do not feel safe in their homes and their communities. They are still dealing with the impacts of crippling inflation and higher prices. They continue to navigate through some of the highest taxes in the nation and costly and burdensome regulations. They face higher energy costs and the continued implementation of a radical energy climate plan that seeks to dismantle the affordable and reliable natural gas infrastructure, supply, and delivery system and eliminate consumer choice and how you heat your home, cook your food, power your buildings, and the vehicle you drive. New York families and businesses have to make difficult choices every day. They practice fiscal restraint and tighten their financial belts. Why shouldn't the state do the same? Unfortunately, Albany Democrats need to realize it's not their money they are recklessly spending. It's the taxpayers' money. We can and must do better. So thank you to Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. We will talk to him directly about the budget, but I wanted to pass that along to you because I know I promised that I would as soon as I heard from the Assemblyman. A couple of quick comments from viewers. We as Americans need to get the wheels back on the bus. Maybe we should hold pep rallies to boost American spirits. I feel we are being attacked from within. First, we lost our school education system as it was to COVID. Now we're losing our higher education to the protests. If it isn't for that reason, why not keep the protests away from education systems? Isn't that interesting? Because think about that. So a lot of the people that had to go to school during COVID are now the ones in the higher education that are protesting. And that's interesting. Another comment from a viewer. Please thank Ken for that feel-good gift of cheesy news. I can skip my meditation session today. Yes, thank you, Ken. We all say thank you for passing along that information. That we in Albany, in New York, we're going to focus on what's really important. Individually sliced pieces of cheese that have that wrapper on it. Something about, I saw the piece on it yesterday, but it was something about pollution. But thank you for bringing that to our attention. So, as I mentioned, Trump had his first day at the hush money trial. We're going to talk about that. Oh, did you see? Remember yesterday I brought you the story about how Biden randomly went to a Sheetz gas station, did like a campaign stop. It didn't really go anywhere. Like the only person he ended up talking to, I think, was the cashier. Well, I don't know if these are related, but the Biden administration believes it should be a federal crime to refuse to hire ex-convicts. There is no such federal statute, but that hasn't stopped President Biden's Equal Employment Opportunity Commission from seizing dictatorial power to impose its own decrees. The EEOC sued Sheetz Incorporated for using criminal background checks to staff its 600-plus convenience stores in 6 states. The agency does not allege Sheetz is biased against minorities per se, only against minorities who failed the background check. It justifies its crackdowns on criminal background checks because black men's imprisonment rate, quote, was nearly 7 times higher than white men and almost 3 times higher than Hispanic men, according to the EEOC. But according to Team Biden, there are no ex-convicts or felons. They're only justice-involved individuals. That's actually the term. Now, we have done this in New York, essentially. There's a little more minutia when it comes to the rules. But yes, basically, you should not know the background about who you are hiring. The problem is most businesses look at criminal records before hiring. But think of that. There are only justice-involved individuals. That's because you can't say ex-cons or ex-convicts or felons. You're supposed to say justice-involved individuals. The EEOC used statistical disparities to justify effectively designating criminal offenders as a protected class under federal civil rights law. The disparate impact is the EEOC's Aladdin's lamp, allowing it to gin up case after case of discrimination on standards that sometimes failed the laugh test. For 50 years, the EEOC has invoked almost any pretext to stretch its arbitrary power over private hiring. I just had to mention this. Just another weird social justice push, I guess you could call it, from the Biden administration. In previous cases, the EEOC sought to compel companies to give back pay to people who were never hired because they lied about their criminal records. It demanded corporations compensate rejected job applicants with violent records, including a Hispanic female who was convicted of attempted murder for shooting at her husband in a college football stadium where he was working as a cameraman. Maybe the EEOC believed that lady would be perfect to handle any customer complaints. The Sheetz case exemplifies Team Biden's definition of social justice. The agency asked the federal judge to compel Sheetz to provide appropriate back pay. Listen to this. Appropriate back pay with prejudgment interest, retroactive seniority, and benefits or front pay in lieu thereof and an additional amount to offset adverse tax consequences of payment of a lump sum monetary award in a single tax year. Pretty good deal for people who never worked a day at Sheetz, isn't it? Why not also require Sheetz to give money to every ex-convict? Congress never intended to give equal opportunity to felons and ex-convicts when it enacted the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Permitting federal agencies to become regulatory dictators is a travesty of the Constitution and common sense. Crime could be one of the defining issues in this year's presidential election. If Republican highlights this lawsuit, Biden could sweat far more the next time he wanders in to do a campaign photo op at one of their stores. Yes, just a weird a piece that may not have been on your radar. I wanted to mention that before I forgot. We do have a short break coming up. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really... Do we want to talk about Mike Johnson at all? Probably not. So Melania returns to the campaign trail. She hosted Caitlyn Jenner and Dr. Oz at a Mar-a-Lago. Let me try that again. An intimate Mar-a-Lago fundraiser touting McDonald's LGBT record. Melania Trump made a return to the campaign trail on Saturday night at Mar-a-Lago by hosting an intimate power fundraiser for the Log Cabin Republicans. Attendees at the sold-out event, for about 60 guests in the tea room of the private Palm Beach, Florida club, included Caitlyn Jenner, Dr. Oz, and Elizabeth Ailes. Source said the tickets went for up to $50,000 a pop, with the funds primarily being used to help Trump and other GOP candidates get elected this year. The group is raising funds to inform voters in crucial swing states that President Trump's LGBT record and his goals for the second term, said a GOP source. An attendee said they invited Melania's leadership role in what will be an unprecedented outreach initiative to gay and lesbian voters, the most significant of any Republican presidential candidate in American history. It's good to see Melania back on the campaign trail, though. The fact that our former and future First Lady, Melania Trump, chose Log Cabin's LGBT event as her first campaign event speaks volumes about her and negates so much we've been fed by the mainstream media. They added, gay voters are no longer one-issue voters. We got legally married almost 13 years ago. We are grateful to Melania Trump for her leadership, and we embrace her unity message to save our great country this November. That was from one attendee. We hear that Melania, this is coming from the New York Post, later posted on social media of the event, we must come together around the principles of liberty, justice, and patriotism. That's good to see her on the campaign trail. We're going to talk a little bit about Trump and the hush money trial when we come back. Well, I wanted to remind you, I know I mentioned this yesterday, but coming up tomorrow is that nutrition workshop with our friends at the Painted Post Food Pantry. This is a 35 to 40-minute lesson, a recipe demonstration with samples and a free kitchen tool for every participant. Lessons, recipe, and kitchen tools are different every time. So it's tomorrow from 10:30 to 11:30 a.m. at the United Church of Painted Post, 201 North Hamilton Street in Painted Post. We're covering a lot this morning, folks. Stay with us. We will be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
2024 Chevrolet Equinox LS all-wheel drive for 36 months. 2,500 do-it signing for only $299 per month. Only at Elm Chevrolet. Visit online at elmchevrolet.com. Together, let's drive.
Race car drivers change lanes very fast, but with no outside mirrors. How come they don't crash? Introducing Angel View, the new wide-angle mirror that reduces blind spots. Angel View simply snaps over your car's rear view mirror, giving you a 160-degree view behind you. Just look at the difference. Look, ordinary rear view mirrors are small and flat, but Angel View has a huge mirror with curved glass. This convex shape allows you to see both blind spots with one glance. And with our Pro Edition special coating, it's anti-glare at night. Get your Angel View now for just $19.99. But wait, Angel View may be discontinued. Due to rising costs, Angel View is stopping manufacturing effective immediately. Once the current inventory is gone, it's gone forever. Order now.
Call 1-800-897-0371 or visit getangelview.com. Order now.
Happy kids heal faster.
That's why Starlight Children's Foundation is dedicated to improving the mental well-being of sick kids. Being in a hospital facing painful treatments takes away from the happiness of childhood. But that's where Starlight comes in. We provide entertainment, comfort, and distraction through Starlight Gaming, hospital gowns, and toy deliveries to bring smiles to over 800 hospitals. Starlight programs are what happiness is made of. Learn more at starlight.org.
The Fox Sports app isn't just any sports app. It's your sports app.
For the touchdown!
Yeah, yours. Your teams. Your highlights. Your scores. Your stories. Just choose your favorites to get more of what you want.
To the end zone!
And of course, stream your teams live. The best part is free with your pay TV subscription. Grab your Fox Sports app today.
Sheldon and Missy face off in Book Smarts versus Street Smarts.
I'm not feeling so good. Biohazard! Biohazard!
Young Sheldon.
Weeknights at 6.
We are back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Thank you for joining us. A comment here from Ken. We have come a long way since the 70s. It was pushed as a deterrent to crime in schools, that when you were imprisoned on a felony, you lost all your rights as a citizen of the United States. Now you get first crack and financial aid to open a pot shop in New York and could be guaranteed a good job when you get out instead of the law-abiding citizen. Thank you, Ken. Yes, in New York, I mean, basically what Biden is pushing at the federal level is very similar to what we have already in New York. So let's take a look at what they're saying, or some of the takeaways from the hush money trial yesterday. This coming from CNN. Prosecutors said Trump schemed to corrupt the 2016 presidential elections. Isn't that interesting when you have a time when the media completely covered up the Hunter Biden laptop? I mean, this is the avenue they're going down. It does show you the weakness of Bragg's case, but it's not to say that, you never know what can happen. The defendant, Donald Trump, orchestrated a criminal scheme to corrupt the 2016 presidential election. So I guess my question is, a presidential candidate, do they have to tell you everything when they're campaigning? Is that what this is suggesting? So any candidate that maybe kept something in their past secret, that was a criminal scheme. And now Trump has denied all of it. I'm just saying that's pretty weak. The defense says that Donald Trump is innocent. President Trump had nothing to do with the invoice, with the check being generated, or the entry on the ledger. I have a spoiler alert. There's nothing wrong with trying to influence an election. It's called democracy. That's a good point. The next takeaway, the tabloid publisher is an alleged catch-and-kill scheme, testifies first. That was David Pecker, calling Pecker a co-conspirator during his opening statement. They teed up on the former tabloid publisher as a key player in Trump's catch-and-kill scheme to control the public narrative about him ahead of the 2016 election. Anyway, Trump was thinking about the $175 million bond hearing down the street. As opening statements got underway in criminal court, other lawyers for Trump were in a courtroom a block away arguing over the legitimacy of the $175 million bond Trump posted to appeal the judgment in his civil fraud trial. Trump, who could not attend the civil hearing because he's required to attend each day of the criminal trial, railed against Letitia James on his way in and out of the courtroom. Just imagine it, taking the Republican nominee completely off of the campaign trail, forcing him to be in that trial every day the trial is in session. Now they're talking a lot about the gag order, that Trump has broken the gag order. Before the trial resumes Tuesday, Judge Merchant is holding a hearing on allegations that Trump violated the judge's gag order, barring discussion of witnesses. The district attorney's office asked the judge to fine Trump $1,000 for each of several gag order violations leading up to and since the trial started. In addition to the fines, prosecutors want the judge to remind Trump he could be imprisoned if he continues to disobey the judge's order. We think that it's important for the court to remind Mr. Trump that he is a criminal defendant And like all criminal defendants, he's subject to court supervision. Court is only in session until 2 p.m. today because of the Passover holiday. Yesterday, it ended shortly because of an emergency dental operation. Keep those comments coming in, by the way. I see we got a lot of waves. Thank you very much. Yep, I mentioned the nutrition workshop, but if you're wondering, that's from a viewer. But yes, it is tomorrow from 10:30 to 11:30 at the United Church of Painted Post, 201 North Hamilton Street in Painted Post. So more on this case. Jonathan Turley, who does a good job. He writes at the New York Post. He does a lot with Fox. He was on Fox News Channel's America Reports. He said, what is clear is in this case, Trump is right. This is an embarrassment. The fact that we are actually talking about this case being presented in a New York courtroom leaves me in utter disbelief. And that's the problem with the weaponization of the justice system. But I'll continue. This is Jonathan Turley. The arguments today did in fact capture all the problems here. You had this misdemeanor under state law that had run out. This is going back related to the 2016 election. They zapped it back into life by alleging that there was a campaign finance violation under the federal law that doesn't exist. The Department of Justice doesn't view it this way. On top of that, you got these tough factual issues that were laid out well by the Trump team, saying someone else designated this as a legal expense, and he was actually paid far in excess of this because this was a legal account. Also, keep in mind, this is what Hillary Clinton's people did. Remember when they funded the Steele dossier, which they denied to reporters? They put it as a legal expense. Then they fought the eventual fine they received from the federal government, saying that it was a legal expense. Now you got some of the same Democrats supporting this bizarre story. We're going to talk more about this in a moment. Let me see. Good morning, Frank. Love your show. Well, thank you. Why isn't there a lie detector available to get a straight answer out of Trump or others, such as him? Yeah, a lie detector for anybody in politics would be kind of interesting. Thank you for the comment. Keep them coming in. Okay. Greg Jarrett. I'm going to go to this. I'm sorry. I'm just looking at my time. Why don't we take this break? Because this is about the case. We're going to move on from that after that. Got just a couple of weird kind of jumping around stories like we normally do. They're not weird, but I would like to pick your brain. Again, I know no one wants to talk about Mike Johnson, but we can talk about Mike Johnson if you want to. We also have a lot about, and I don't know if we'll have a chance to get to it, but the Marjorie Taylor Greene, seems like we've talked about her maybe arguably too much these last few days and weeks. But Piers Morgan has a piece blaming her, saying that she's the one that betrayed the country. So I'd like to hear your thought. I know we've had great comments back and forth on Marjorie Taylor Greene. Some love her, some hate her. I think that's kind of the public figure that she is, and I think she embraces that. So I don't think I'm saying anything out of school, but still something worth mentioning. But when we come back, in case against Trump, Manhattan DA brags hocus pocus case exposed on the first day, according to Greg Jarrett. That when we come back. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Wow, you found it.
I did.
The History of Water Part 6? I've been dying to read this.
I know, honey.
I always wanted that book.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay. You see, when we install one of our high-efficiency water softeners, we're thinking about hard water and limescale buildup, so you can just think about longer-lasting appliances and softer skin and hair. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
Kuntz Sit and Sleep in Corning. Hey, did you know that Kuntz has been in business since 1955? Wow, that's going on 70 years. And did you know that Kuntz is still family owned and operated? Really? That's 3 generations. Way to go, Steve. Did you also know that their salespeople are non-commissioned and they offer delivery and financing? That's awesome. So why do they want you to shop and compare then? Because they are confident that you won't find a better deal.
Guaranteed.
Kuntz Sit and Sleep in Corning.
Shop and compare.
Welcome to Frankly Speaking, talking to the people that affect your life, that affect all of our day-to-day lives. This is something you're not going to get anywhere else. We've got a lot to offer. There'll be a lot of news, local, regional, national, really the things that affect you. And I think you'll be glad that you tuned in. So think of it as radio on TV. Frankly Speaking, live, 2 hours long, starting at 6 a.m. on WYDC TV Big Fox. This is history. What a beautiful view of Market Street there. I didn't even start the music. Look at that. Looks like a painting as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. So Greg Jarrett says hocus pocus is a meaningless distraction or illusion that is intended to fool. That neatly summarizes District Attorney Alvin Bragg's case against Donald Trump. The DA hopes to snooker a Manhattan jury into convicting the former president with a bag of legal tricks. In most courtrooms, this would never work. But in this Trump-hating venue, the defendant's jury of purported peers are likely predisposed to accept magic for magic's sake. They may want to believe there's no white rabbit behind Bragg's back, despite the pink ears peeking around the coat. The first sleight of hand happened the moment the lead prosecutor addressed jurors during opening statements on Monday. Assistant DA Matthew Colangelo, formerly Joe Biden's number 3 official at the Justice Department, told the panel, "This case is about a criminal conspiracy." Really? That's what he said. Why then is Trump not being charged with that then? Even though Colangelo reportedly accused the defendant of participating in a criminal conspiracy, the word conspiracy can be found nowhere in Bragg's indictment. It's not there because there was no criminal conspiracy. But that didn't stop the prosecutor from deceiving the jury by arguing about an uncharged crime. Like a skilled magician, he hopes his pretense will fool them. Not content with one, Colangelo slipped another one from his sleeve. More than once, he accused Trump of election fraud, conveniently ignoring the fact that the Federal Election Commission examined Trump's payment and determined that there was no fraud because the money conferred did not qualify as a campaign donation. Federal prosecutors who investigated reached the same conclusion. So did Bragg's predecessor. There was no crime. Undeterred, Colangelo used pejorative terms to portray the Daniels cash as a nefarious scheme, without bothering to mention that such non-disclosure agreements are perfectly legal and routine. Also, lawful and quite common was the alleged catch-and-kill device used by the tabloid National Enquirer. On Trump's behalf, it bought the rights to Daniels' story about her supposed relationship with him, but declined to publish it. Contractually, it had every right to do just that. None of this stopped the prosecutor from informing the jury that all this constitutes an illegal conspiracy to undermine a presidential election. Like most illusions, it seems plausible on the surface, but wait. Let's check the indictment again. Every single one of the 34 charges against Trump took place in 2017. You'll note that this was after the 2016 election. It's quite the magic trick to have committed crimes before they allegedly occurred. Colangelo must be new to politics. He's under the mistaken impression that campaigns never try to bury negative stories or promote positive ones. In truth, it's been going on for more than 2 centuries. This prompted the defense in its opening statement to warn the jury, "I have a spoiler alert. There is nothing wrong with trying to influence an election. It's called democracy." They put something sinister on it. Blanche offered a full-throated defense of his famous client when he declared to the jury President Trump is innocent. He described how Trump had nothing to do with the bookkeeping for the 34 invoices reflecting the same number of charged counts. He assigned his lawyer at the time, Michael Cohen, to resolve the demands for money, which he did. Cohen booked the cost as legal services and expenses, which they were. Why did Trump capitulate to what smacks of blackmail or extortion? Blanche offered this explanation. Stormy was an attempt to try to embarrass Trump with all sorts of allegations damaging to him and damaging to his family. Trump fought back to protect his family, reputation, and brand, and that is not a crime. And it isn't, obviously. The defense contends that no crimes were committed at all, that Trump was targeted because he's running for president, and that unscrupulous prosecutors, motivated by politics, built their case on clever deception and abuse of the law, and liars who cannot be trusted. While much of this should be self-evident, Bragg is committed to deploying a hocus-pocus strategy to fool the jury. Through his minion, Colangelo, the lefty DA, accuses Trump of conspiring to influence the 2016 presidential election without recognizing the obvious hypocrisy. It is Bragg himself who is guilty of election interference in 2024 by bringing a legally absurd case designed to take Trump off the campaign trail while his opponent, Joe Biden, freely blankets key states in advance of the November balloting. It's a neat trick called lawfare, weaponizing the law to persecute a political enemy under the guise of a legitimate prosecution. It doesn't matter that any conviction will surely be overturned on appeal. By then, the damage will be done. For now, we are left to watch and wait, wonder whether Manhattan jurors will fall for the legal illusions and distractions conjured up by an unprincipled trickster called Alvin Bragg. I know that was a little lengthy, but I thought it was a very, very good piece. And that was again by, who did I say it was? Greg Jarrett, who is the legal analyst over at Fox News. Yeah, the problem is, and this is one thing I think that the left doesn't take in mind over our issues like this, is lawfare, the slippery slope, or what happens when Republicans are in power and this starts happening to you, this lawfare. I think it's worth mentioning, and that's why I brought it up. So, Trump needs to get a vice president out there campaigning for him now. That's a very good point. Thank you, viewer. That's a very good point. That would be very helpful at this stage in the game. I don't know what the president is waiting for on that, but that would be perfect to have the VP out on the campaign trail while Trump is busy in the courtroom. Very good point. Oh, you know what we've been... How about this headline, just quickly? From CNN. Right now, I'd rather raise my child in Taiwan than America. And that's funny because that's what the headline is now. It was a little bit more forceful when you went on CNN's website, though. It's so interesting to me that, I don't know, it goes back to what we're seeing with Israel, too. The blame America first crowd, the blame... Right here it is. I'd rather live in the world's most dangerous place than America, says Clarissa Y. from CNN. The possibility of war hangs over like a persistent dark cloud. If you think about it long enough, it makes you nervous and clammy. But because that's a plausibility, not an immediate reality, it's easy to ignore. If anything, political violence and upheaval in the States seems far more likely, especially since it would not be unprecedented. On a day-to-day basis, at least Taiwan seems like the more sensible place to live. I asked my dad, a lifelong Republican, who he believed was a bigger threat this year, Chinese President Xi Jinping or former President Donald Trump. He responded without hesitation. Trump, because he's more unpredictable. That's a lifelong Republican, huh? Okay. Those stories just out of nowhere with everything else going on. Very interesting. All right, we're going to take a short break. Stay with us. Our last break. And we're going to wrap things up here on Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV. Big Fox, please stay with us.
Hi, and welcome everyone watching at home. We're here to remind you that we have agents standing by right now to answer your legal questions. So if you've been injured in an accident that was not your fault, call now. Find out if you have a case and how much is potentially worth. I'm Gina Bellich, here with spokesman and TV personality Tom Mustin. So Tom, tell everyone watching at home who should call right now.
Well, Gina, first off, thank you for having me here in the studio. Now, as far as who should call in, the answer is anyone who's been injured in an accident that was not your fault should give us a call right now. Agents are standing by to answer any questions you may have and tell you how much your case is potentially worth.
Thanks, Tom. So what kind of calls are we seeing today?
Well, Gina, we're getting calls about all types of accidents, but the most common has been car accidents. So if you or someone you know were injured in an accident that was not your fault, take that first step and give us a call. We'll answer your questions and you'll find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth.
Thanks, Tom. Call now.
And we are back with Frankly Speaking as we wrap up today's edition. Nearly 2 hours in the books, and I appreciate you so much for joining us. I know I've mentioned this a few times, but if you didn't catch it, Piers Morgan says that Marjorie Taylor Greene is Putin's useful idiot. Now, I know we have some fans out there of Marjorie Taylor Greene. I know we have some people that don't care for the way she does things. Since she first appeared on the Washington scene after the 2016 election, MTG has proven herself to be a trash-talking, shockingly shameless, attention-grabbing political Barbie for whom no conspiracy theory is ever bonkers enough to reject. Now, I'm not going to go through all that or some of the things she said in the past. I'm just curious if you agree with Piers Morgan that she's the one that betrayed the country. So Johnson has not betrayed Republican voters. And as for betraying America, he's not the only one being cheered on by Russian state media and Vladimir Putin. That's Moscow Marjorie, the useful idiot. That's Piers Morgan's take on it. And that kind of ties in with a piece that we're not going to have time to get to, but about Ben Shapiro fighting what they're calling the conspiratorial right. But John Fetterman, who we mentioned earlier, who has been very vocal in his support of Israel and very vocal in his dislike, with words I can't use, of the anti-American, or anti-Israel, I should say, well, sometimes anti-American too, anti-Israel protests on college campuses. He endorsed Mitt Romney for president of Harvard. As an alumni of Harvard and after this mad season of anti-Semitism at Columbia, I co-signed, Fetterman, who received a Master of Public Policy degree from Harvard's Kennedy School of Government, posted on X alongside an image of an old Washington Post op-ed calling for Romney to take the reins of America's oldest institution of higher learning. This former governor of Massachusetts doesn't need a paycheck, but Harvard and its academic peers need to recalibrate from far-left orthodoxy. Interesting. I don't know. I don't have the highest regards for Romney, but that's neither here nor there. According to Newsweek, Putin has set the stage for upheaval in another country. They have announced the creation of the pro-Russian electoral bloc, which plans to run a candidate in Moldova's presidential election in October. A new Moscow-backed political grouping in Moldova was Vladimir Putin's support to destabilizing the former Soviet country, as it seeks European Union membership. The Institute for the Study of War has said. Yeah, we're just going through a couple quick things here on our way out the door. This is the other article I was telling you about. I haven't had a chance to check it all out, but a beleaguered gentleman, Speaker Mike Johnson, one of the takeaways is he actually really good at what he's doing? They're trying to suggest he's kind of fumbling into things, but is he actually doing what needs to be done? That's with Philip Wegman, White House correspondent for Real Clear Politics, and how Republican infighting gets worse after foreign aid vote. And that's the problem I have. Whatever you think about the foreign aid vote, and you could weigh in on that at any moment. I'd love to hear from you. That's the problem, and this is what I mentioned with Marjorie Taylor Greene and others that I have, because that's the articles they love to run with, about the chaos and the dysfunction and the infighting. That's what they want to focus on as it nears November. And then they can get all the quotes from people that, one anonymous source said this person's bad, and one anonymous, that type of thing. And yesterday we had the piece that Matt Gaetz is winning, something like that, that it's Matt Gaetz behind the scenes. But House Republican infighting gets worse after foreign aid vote. And I think that covers everything that I set out to talk about today. Thank you to everybody who joined us this morning. We sure did cover a lot. I'm sure, and it's sad to say, but I'm sure we'll be talking more about the anti-Semitism on college campuses. We'll watch closely today to see what moves are made by the presidents of the universities, Columbia, NYU, Yale, and elsewhere. I know MIT is starting to deal with it. We'll find out all the information that we can get and pass that along to you. So we'll be talking about that tomorrow. As I mentioned, Assemblyman Phil Palmisano will be in on the program on Friday, so you can tune in for that. If you have any questions for him or any just questions, comments, concerns, criticisms, please feel free to reach out to that number on the bottom of the screen. And folks, I hope you have a great day, and we'll be back tomorrow morning starting at 6 a.m. for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
The Fox Sports app isn't just any sports app. It's your sports app. Yeah, yours. Your teams. Your highlights. Your scores. Your